Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I think we can get started, right, Karen? Okay. Well, welcome. This is CMC's journey through the 90s Accessibility Challenge. My name is Natalie Cole. I am the Learning, Technology, Equity, and Access Administrator at Colorado Mountain College. I've been with the college for just under a year. And before this, I was a special education teacher, a virtual teacher, and then I went back to school for instructional design. Um, the image on the left here is me in my sailor suit in the 90s. And fun fact, the first time I met Karen, she doesn't know this, was actually a year ago at the ELK conference, and I attended one of her sessions. So I'll let Karen introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kaemmerling. I'm the Assistant Dean of Instruction for Online Learning. I have been in online education for over 20 years now. I actually did know that Natalie was at my session. We just never talked about it. And in my picture on the right, I am married in that picture in 1995, and my husband used to go out to sea. He was gone for the first 300 days of our first year of marriage, and I would send him pictures in the letters I wrote because it was $100 an hour to talk internationally.
And hopefully by the end of this session, you will understand why this is a 90s themed presentation. Okay, so today we are going to talk about us in terms of CMC, and then we'll talk about our solution to the ADA/accessibility challenge. We'll talk through some of the communication strategies that we've employed at CMC to get our messaging out. And then we'll also have time for gripes, groans, and growth. And this is a conversation discussion session. So we'll be asking you guys to hopefully come off mute if you feel inclined.
Okay, so a little bit about CMC, and you can see here on the slide some of the things, but what you should know about Colorado Mountain College is that everyone is admitted when they apply to the institution, and they come with all kinds of accessibility needs with that they don't necessarily 100% know how to navigate as they enter. But we do have several bachelor's degrees that we offer at the college. We're dual mission and a designated Hispanic serving institution in rural areas with 15,000 students. Most of our faculty are actually adjunct instructors, and so connecting with them across a wide area in Colorado can be very challenging. We do offer a variety of delivery methods for our courses, and this also really does impact our conversations with accessibility. We have in-person, hybrid, synchronous on WebEx and Zoom, and also asynchronous modalities. So at Colorado Mountain College, I have been with this institution for about 11 years. And ADA is certainly not new to any of us. And we have made multiple attempts at Colorado Mountain College to address accessibility, digital accessibility, but accessibility as a whole at the institution. But nothing has really stuck like having Natalie on board and making this a priority at the institution. We've had isolated pockets of addressing accessibility, including at one point, for example, online learning had its own counselors and accessibility coordinators, and we no longer have those, and we have distributed that to individuals across the campuses. We, in online learning, had specifically addressed ADA and accessibility through self-reviews of individuals' courses and then one-on-one meetings to review the self-review, and then also providing some individualized just-in-time type training for certain elements. But there was nothing that was a requirement other than us really pushing A couple years ago, we started to employ Canvas Ally, and really didn't utilize that tool to its full impact very quickly. We were very slow on it. Took us a while to really understand what the product did. We notified faculty on how to use it a little bit, but there was just some training and no requirements to use it. And then about a year ago, we launched the ability to have faculty see what the students could see by using their accessibility reports inside their own courses. And that has really made a huge difference to be able to have faculty see their own report within their own course. It gave them a lot of power and encouragement to make some changes.
Okay, so this brings us to our first discussion block. So our question is, how has Colorado House Bill 211110, and I'll explain that for people that might be new to it. How has Colorado House Bill 211110 initiated conversations around ADA compliance at your institution? I encourage you to come off mute. If you can put some questions in chat. But the House Bill 211110 is a bill that was introduced about a year ago in Colorado. It goes into effect at July 1 of this year, and it affirms and mandates ADA compliance for government entities, including higher education. And it puts a little bit of teeth behind ADA compliance to the tune of $3,500 per infraction. So individuals with disabilities can sue if they come across content that they cannot access. So I know it's scary. Go ahead, if you can, take yourself off mute. We would love to hear from you. Or we could just sit quietly. Is anybody else in a higher ed institution? Oh, I guess I can pull up chat. All right, I see from Gabriel, he says a whole new digital accessibility initiative and plan. Absolutely amazing.
Natalie, since we started late, maybe we could skip
we'll
this
move
one
on.
and keep going.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about our solutions. So Karen and I are part of the academic support department. And we've outlined some of the strategies that we've done within our realm. So Karen talked about this a little bit, but we have this tool called Canvas Ally, and Ally will go through every one of our courses and spit out scores for each piece of content and then a holistic view of the course. And so something we've done with the support of another member of our team is create a Power BI page that takes all of the data from across the college, and it gives us a report that is a little bit easier to manage. It also will pull out any course that is not being actively used or a sandbox course, so we have more clear data. And something that we've done to the extent possible, because Microsoft makes it a little bit hard to share things, is make this data visible to anybody at the college who wants to see it. So that could be our supervisors, our ADIs, it could be our president's office, individual faculty. So we've really increased our data visibility. Another thing that we've done is we're calling it the Equity and Access Knowledge Base, but it's a collection of just-in-time tutorials for our faculty, and they're faculty focused. So it builds on the core concepts of accessibility. If you're familiar with, I think that's out of CSU. They have 7 core concepts. We have 6. So we have the core concepts of accessibility. So if you do those 6 things, everything you make will be accessible. We have some tutorials for specific file types, how to navigate PowerPoint, how to navigate Word, PDFs, and then also course checklists. So that was a creation of an entire knowledge base. So if you went there, it's your one-stop shop for everything accessibility. And then getting to why this is a 90s themed presentation, we introduced what's called the 90s Accessibility Challenge. So it is a 90-minute training course that we built on Articulate Rise. And then through completion of the course, you should be able to increase your Canvas Ally accessibility report to 90%. So those are the two things that we're looking for: complete the course and then increase your score. And we said 90% because we thought that sometimes there's pieces of content in your course that you really love, but it's just not able to be made accessible. So we ask faculty to find a different way to support students that can't access that piece of content through other means. But if they still want to keep that piece of content in there, that's fine. So 90% gives us a little bit of wiggle room. And so if they do both of those things, complete the training and increase their score report, they have the option or the eligibility to earn $90. And we're giving out, we have a deadline of our all hands CMC days, which is in May. So it's a 90-day challenge too. And we made this challenge 90s themed to make it as fun as possible, because sometimes this work can be a little bit tedious. So it has a ton of references. It's a little bit gamified. It's really fun. So that's what we did in our department. This is part of a overall college goal. So college-wide, we have the introduction of our first ever profit sharing. So if our faculty, if our courses, our course offerings are accessible, and then everything related to what we share as a college, both internally and externally, is digitally accessible, we are doing a profit sharing technique of, I think it's around 1% bonus for everybody if we can get to our goals. And to support that, we have the introduction of the ADA Digital Accessibility Team, which is a multidisciplinary group that we're all working together to try to lift up and elevate digital accessibility through the many pieces of this college. One of those would be what we're calling the PACT Challenge. It's modeled off of CSU's and Virginia Tech's CALM campaign. CALM is Create Accessible Learning Materials. Ours, our PACT Challenge, is called Provide Accessible Content Today. And it's micro learning for our staff to help them learn some of these strategies. We have that a little bit gamified too, with a leaderboard and things like that. And then we are a resource-rich college, so we're in the process of hiring on a accessibility consultant to help us with some of this work. So maybe we skip over this one. If anyone is interested in sharing their approach to ADA, feel free. What do you think, Karen? Do we move on?
Well, while they're thinking for just a minute, I just want to also emphasize that Natalie's role and title at the college was brand new. And so no one had ever had her position. And I just think that was a great starting point or launching moment at the institution that really made a difference in getting this going. Because you just sometimes need someone with the dedicated power to put and time to put to it.
That's true. I agree. Okay. I think we'll move on.
Move on.
Yeah. Okay. So how we've been communicating this across the college, we've adopted two techniques, bottom up and top down. So we're trying to share this as widely as possible, the 90s Accessibility Challenge, and then everything associated with it. So we've done Canvas announcements, we've done SharePoint announcements. Another strategy that we're trying to do is prioritizing those easy to adopt techniques. So teaching people how quick and easy it can be to add alternative text. So, getting some of that buy-in with those just like easy 30-second or less fixes, and then building from there. Another thing that we're trying to do is some of that one-on-one support. We can do this through positions of power like Karen's, because she has some direct reports and things like that, and just going in and supporting those faculty one-on-one, sometimes a little bit of hand over hand, making sure that they know what to do. Because sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to if you don't know about this stuff. So that's our bottom up technique. Top down, We do have some messaging coming from the president's office and then our vice president of academic affairs. We've been meeting with our instructional leadership team, so they're well aware of the opportunities through the 90s challenge. And then, excuse me, meeting with specific departments that tend to score a little bit lower on our rating system. So meeting with them individually, giving some synchronous support, sharing specific data on which faculty or courses need some more specific help. And then some of these departments have also been incorporating ADA compliance into their evaluation system. And underpinning all of this, all of our messaging and communication strategies is that data visibility for all. Through our Power BI page, we have a little bit of friendly competition going. So any dean, any ADI can look at the scores of any course across the college, so they can see how campuses compare to one another. So that's another technique that we've been trying. Okay. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, so I was just going to take a moment here to describe a little bit about my communication, because as the Assistant Dean of Instruction for Online Learning, and I oversee certain programs, I've really been communicating the expectations of ADA for several years prior to COVID and on, and using this ally report, which kind of identifies for faculty specific things that are worse as far as accessibility, and then it kind of has a gradient of red, orange, green kind of thing for faculty, and then helping them identify those in their courses. And so an example is this semester I looked at every single course, and anyone who hadn't achieved the 90%, I offered my one-on-one support to help them get there so that they can get their $90. And so, you know, it's stepping up and providing the additional time to each individual for our students, because that's really what this is all about. And that's really what I try to emphasize when I'm talking with faculty. But does anyone have something they'd like to share here?
Okay, well, feel free to put it in chat. I think we'll go to the next one, right? Okay, so gripes, groans, and growth. So I'm sharing our current ADA standing as of Monday of this week. We are at 80.41%. And if we look at this data from a year ago, we are at 62.8%. And this is comparing a little bit of like tangerines to oranges. The spring 23 data includes some of the sandboxes and things like that. But there's market growth since we've introduced some of these strategies. And then just to speak to the scale of what we're working with when it comes to digital accessibility, we're looking at over 1,000 courses. We have 83,000 files and 67,000 Canvas pages. So just a massive amount of content that we're trying to make accessible. So it is no small feat. To speak to some of the groans that we've heard, at least from the faculty's perspective, we've seen some resistance in specific departments. Some of the departments that are more hybrid or in person will say things like, well, I don't have any students with disabilities, or students with disabilities can't be part of my department because of XYZ. So just increasing the understanding for faculty that this is something that improves your courses, not just for those with disabilities, but for all students, has been part of our process. And then there's sometimes some inequity in our remediation processes. So if I think of some of our math or STEM content, and if anyone has checked in on the SLO Discord, it's visible there too. But our STEM content tends to be a little bit more difficult to remediate, especially when faculty are using very outdated processes for demonstrating math. Like I'm talking about like writing, like handwriting and things like that on PowerPoint, scanning it and then turning it in. That would be pretty hard to remediate. So the learning curve for some departments is much greater than others. And then speaking from my own perspective as an accessibility advocate, um, some of the groans that I've had is we're constantly juggling in our department for what initiatives takes precedence. So we can sometimes like jockey for support from the president. We are grateful that we've had messaging from our president that ADA compliance is something that we're prioritizing, but it can pretty quickly go to the back of faculty and staff's mind. So um, that's one. And then often this work takes hand over hand support, so it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of time to support faculty in teaching some of these skills. So, just the sheer amount of time can be overwhelming. And then last, this tends to be an emotionally charged topic. All of us know somebody with a disability, even if you don't know somebody with a disability. And so when you hear some callousness from faculty or staff about having to do some of this stuff, it can be a little bit difficult at times. So trying to keep a level head and presume positive intent can be difficult at times. Karen, would you like to add anything?
Well, and I will share first that when Natalie came on board and such, there were some individuals working really hard on this, and I was one of them, and it felt a bit frustrating that it's taken this long to finally get the institution to put a position behind it and money behind it and the support behind it. But I'm really thankful that we're here. And then also really to that hand in over hand idea, it's pretty frustrating when you have some great videos that go step by step on how to do something. And they've taken the 90-minute training, and then you have to walk them through it with each individual page and sit with them. And it's like I liken it to supporting my children sometimes with their homework, and just that they needed me to sit at the table with them, even though they were doing the work off to the side. And so it takes a lot of time. And so I definitely appreciate everything that we are doing now. And I'm really thankful. And I know that it will make a huge difference to students. That growth is so impressive to me. And it's 80% of all the files and all of that is now compliant. And I'll just share for online learning, we started at 72% about a year ago. And with my phone calls this spring, we have moved ourselves from below 90% as a group as a whole to now above 90% as a whole. So it can be done. It just does take a lot of time that we don't always have. But I think there's something happening in the chat. So maybe we can lead to our next question.
Yeah. So our next question is very open-ended, and I see Martin put a question in the chat, it's a good question. So what exactly is the Ally report? So it's this external tool that's built into Canvas, and it'll scan every piece of content, every Canvas page, every file, and it gives a score for each one. And then the collection of all those scores is the course accessibility report. And so the tool is really holistic. It will provide, so say you have an image without an image description, it'll give you feedback for what you're supposed to do with that image. So it's a little bit gamified at times because it's quick, and you just click on the little dial next to the image, and it'll walk you through the steps of how to fix it. And so it's very quick once you get started. And so what we've done at the college is take all of those course accessibility reports and fed them into an overall entire college accessibility report. So they're all building on each other. Hopefully that answers that question. And good question, Martin. I know you know what it is. Martin's on our team too, but that's a good one. So
Let me
yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna just throw it out there. So just for fun, you can type it in the chat. What tool is your institution using, if any, to monitor accessibility within your LMS or institutionally?
we might have some people that aren't at a higher ed institution. That's been a learning for me at Elk that not everybody is part of higher ed.
Sure. Well, and since no one's chiming in, I did hear of another tool that I believe someone is using. I think it started with a P yesterday. I'll have to look at my notes. They were, but I think there are some great resources, and I think for us, it became really a game changer because it's not just Natalie or I or any leader saying, oh, you need to do this and here are the problems in your course. It really has provided an outside quick way of seeing a course and everything that might need to be addressed in it, but also that it's kind of an independent thing. It's us helping the faculty achieve a certain score within this program. It's not perfect. And you know, it may miss things, or I've even been frustrated at times that it's saying something's not accessible, but it, you know, it is, or vice versa. And so it's not a perfect tool, but it really gives us a measurable way to see that we are making strides that we couldn't see before. I think someone put something in the chat.
Yeah, I see Carol said that they use Ally too. So the other tools available, I know there's You Do It. That I know DU uses that one, and it's based out of Florida that created it. But I would agree. I appreciate that it's an external marker, so it doesn't have to come from Karen or I or even the other ADIs to have great accessibility knowledge. This external piece makes it a little bit more palatable for all of our faculty.
I'll just ask Carol, are you using it in a similar way? Or how are you using that tool at the school?
I'll just unmute myself. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not part of instructional design. I'm one of the librarians. We did at one point have ally training where you could get like a certificate. That was a couple years ago. So I know that our instructional design folks are more involved with it than I am. And I'm not faculty, so I don't have a course shell or anything like that.
Thanks, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I will say, you know, that there are certain individuals who are very motivated by the $90, and then others who are choosing to get to 90% but are skipping the 90-minute training and vice versa and all kinds of things. And so, you know, I think mobilizing like we have has really brought this to the forefront of conversation and is really getting folks thinking beyond just the little things. And so I'm very happy with the progress that we've made in a short amount of time. And I just can't thank the institution enough for putting some real thought behind it. About a year ago too, I went to a presentation, and there's just so much to think about here for accessibility, and we often just don't even realize what students need or whether they have a disability in our courses because you know, it's not always visible. And so I really am thankful that we're making this progress, but there's always going to be more work to do. And the 90%, you know, is a great goal, but ultimately we're going to have to be even higher up. And so.
Yeah, that's we're trying this out, you know. We're trying the $90 to help encourage faculty to get there. And just as Karen spoke to it, you know, some are really motivated by that, some are, you know, not. So it's interesting. We'll let you know, AMCC, if it's super successful. We're about 2/3 of the way through our 90-day time period of this.
Well, maybe Natalie, here we can just open it up. Do you have any other questions, comments, anything you would like to discuss that your institution's doing or not doing, or ideas you have in this area that we haven't considered? Anything at all?
Questions for us? Yep. Okay. So Martin says stickers on copiers to not scan magazine textbooks for courses. I think that's a great idea. Yes. Yeah, Martin and I have talked about that before. Uh, yeah. Teresa asks, do you foresee this work as a full-time position in the near future? Um, I guess I would say it is a full-time position already because I am doing it. Um, Something that I would like to see the college do is hire a full-time position to support the entire college, the staff side of this work too. Because ADA compliance for students is great, but it's also we need to have it through all parts of the college, like our website, our internet, every piece.
And I'll just respond, we didn't have this a year ago. We did not have a Natalie, and we weren't making progress because no one could truly dedicate their time to it. So I do think there is a space for this and an important space for this at the college. And the college really has to think bigger too, a little bit about their accessibility. Natalie and I talk quite a bit because my role is very much on the academic side of the house, but when we're supporting students with disabilities, there are times that, and I would just say I experience this a lot with my own children with disabilities, but the institution and other places do not always make it easy for students to, one, know whether they have a disability. We don't provide any support for that. And we don't, we, as across, and I say we, I mean, academia as a whole. And we don't always make it very easy for students to acquire accommodations and such. And so and even when you do have accommodations, how it gets shared out is not always easy. So we just definitely need to institutionally across the board, across the country, really need to be thinking about what we're doing in this area.
And to piggyback off of that, so the Colorado House Bill 211110 is the first of its kind. I wouldn't be surprised if other states start adopting this as well. So I do think it's going to get more attention outside of Colorado and other states as well. So. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I think we give some time back to people and close it for the day.
Agreed. Thanks to everyone for their patience in our late start. And I hope you continue to enjoy the conference, and hopefully we'll see you in some sessions if I could get out of some meetings today.
Yeah, I agree. I think, is our moderator a mouse? Yeah, okay. So make sure you fill out the link with some feedback for us.
Thank you. You took my words right out of my mouth. Thank you.
Thanks.
Maybe the recording could be stopped, mouse.